Welcome back to Tying That Guy. I'm Wes Chatham. This is my good pal, Franck. And this is a very special episode because we're completing the circle, Ty. This is where it all started. I don't know if you remember, but our very first episode of Tying That Guy before it became a worldwide phenomenon was Season 5, Episode 1.
That's right. Yeah. The fancy microphones we're using right now are because of that. As we talked Amazon into buying us all this podcasting equipment so that we could do like a terrible podcast for them.
Like we're by far we are the lowest level of their podcast that they have on their show.
Yes. But we still have all this stuff. They forgot to take the stuff back when they left, and so we just
just got to keep it. Now we're just doing podcasts over and over and over about everything. We're talking about short films with Breck.
Yep.
But our producer's good.
And quick shout out to Breck. Breck is sick right now. He got pneumonia up in Aspen. Hopefully he's going to recover quickly. But, you know, Breck Eisner, good friend of the show. Hopefully he gets better fast.
You're talking about a little place called Aspen where the beer flows like wine?
And the wine flows like cocaine.
Dude, did you miss my Dumb and Dumber reference? I think you might have missed the Dumb and Dumber reference.
I'm talking about a little place called Aspen.
You know, I am not a Dumb and Dumber aficionado like you are.
I did not know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. You love Dumb and Dumber, and I've seen it once, and I don't ever feel like I need to watch it.
Wow, I didn't think it was possible, but you've lowered in my esteem. So we've done this show on this episode before, and I think, you know, one of the things that, you know, going back and talking about 501 and watching it now, what I really realized is, and I think for me, this is my favorite season of the show. And I can tell coming into it, there was just a synergy. It was the first time we fully hit our stride because it's such a complicated show. There's so many moving parts. We had so many different challenges with money and time and different, you know, but this is the season where we are now successful. Everybody kind of knows where we are. All the directors and everybody that comes on the show, they know the story. They know the characters. But not only that, we've been working within these characters for 6 years at this point. And the crew, we've all been working together for 6 points. So they understand how to shoot things. And it's one of those things where it all just comes together and clicks. And it was one of the first seasons that I experienced. And I've experienced this with theater, but I haven't really experienced it much with television or movies or anything. But the first time where I could read something and I didn't have to intellectually go back and, you know, look at my notes and read the churn and everything like I've done. I could read it and I just felt it instinctually if it felt right or if it didn't feel right or it was, you know, living inside me. And I realized, like, wait a minute, you know, you realize, and I'm not comparing myself, but I do realize, like, does somebody like a Daniel Day-Lewis who spends a year in preparation, does he spend that kind of time and that kind of effort so then he could get to that point when he's doing his work? Because, you know, people laugh it off and be like, all right, dude, you got to go be a shoe cobbler for a year to get in the side. But there's something to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's process is different,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure that's true on the acting side. I've never been an actor, but even writers, you know, everybody's process, how you get in the headspace that you need to be in to write. Everybody's got a different thing. I mean, the old classic, you know, the Hemingway version was you had to get drunk, you know, like there's a lot of old drunk writers because the only way they could get the words to flow out of them was when they were, you know, drunk enough to do it. But I don't have to drink to write, but I do have to be sleepy. You know, like that's why I usually write at like 3 a.m. because, you know, if I'm sleepy enough, then I'm not thinking about what I'm writing. I'm just writing what's coming straight out of me. And Daniel has his own process. Everybody's got a completely different process for how they do this.
Do you really? You have to be sleepy before you do it?
Well, so now I don't know on the acting side, and actually this is an interesting question for you as an actor, so we should talk about this. But on the writing side, what you're trying to do is what we call silence your internal editor. So when you're writing, there's the part of your brain that's like trying to come up with the words right. And there's this other part of your brain that's going, nah, that's not a great word. Or that sentence didn't quite work or whatever. You got to turn that off because the goal is to just get the first draft out, right? Then you can come back later and you can edit and you can tweak and all that. But you got to get that first draft out. And if you can't shut that internal editor off long enough to get the first draft out, it never gets done. And so everybody has a different, like I was saying, when Hemingway drank to turn off his editor. I try to write when I'm kind of a little not fully aware because I'm like either super sleepy or something else, Daniel's thing is he obsesses about word count. And so the internal editor is tracking his word count and it's not tracking the writing itself. That's how he does it. Everybody's got a different process. Some people listen to music. My friend Walter, he's probably written like 30 books now. He's a very successful writer. What he does is he has to listen to music, but he can't have any lyrics. So he listens to like classical music and that kind of stuff.
Like movie soundtracks and things like that.
Movie soundtracks. It's good enough to like turn off a little bit of his brain, but it's not so intrusive that it keeps him from doing the work. And I'm curious now, as an actor, what's your version? Do you have to do the same thing? Do you have to turn something off in your brain so that you can do the performance?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your process?
Yeah. So my process is, so for different things, I have different processes. Well, I'll tell you a story. So when I was auditioning for the unit and I met with David Mamet and I was reading for David Mamet, when I first walked into the office to read with him, he said, hold on a second. And he wrote a series of simple math problems on a paper. And he handed me the paper and he said, do these math problems for me. So I started, down doing it. And then we started the scene as I was doing these math problems. And so the math problems were simple enough where it took just a little bit of mental thought, but it totally silenced that critic. And that's extra loud in auditions. That thing in your head that's slowing you down. And so the part that would normally be talking to you or watching yourself, you're actually focusing on the math problems. And then the scene happened without me even really being aware of it. And then when it was over with, he's like, yeah, and he saw, what it was going, and that's how I got the job. And so what I've learned over the years is, theater more than because theater is like you stand up, you do the whole complete work, beginning, middle, and end in front of an audience. So there's that you have to, it's a lot harder for my attention span. Whereas like when I get up there, I know I got to focus on this scene for television. But theater, and this is not a healthy habit, and I do not endorse it, but I would have a few drinks before I got on stage because some people are different. But for me, like alcohol is just the right amount. It just kind of silences that thing that's kind of talking or whatever. And then it was just the work. I was allowed to. So I was just mad, and I know there's healthier ways in meditation. I know it's, I get it, I know it, and I can do all those, and I do those as well. But when it comes to film and TV, the way I do is like I feel like I prepare as much as I can. Then when I show up, I throw away all the preparation. So I don't even think about how I'm going to do something, how I'm going to say something. I don't let that come in because when we get scared, we try to control our performance. A lot of people, if they get locked in the same way of doing things, it's because they're trying to control their performance because they're so scared to allow it just to be. And they do the same thing over and over. So that means they're not listening. There's nothing spontaneous happen. If I do the work, I have to prepare first. And if I prepare and know the lines like breathing and know everything, and when I show up, then I deliberately throw away the lines and everything. And I deliberately joke around. I deliberately bring that I take energy from the crew and the talking to the people around me. Because I don't want to think about the scene. I don't want to do it. And then when I show up on the scene and do the work, I'm just listening. I'm just reacting to what's happening in the scene and the person ahead of me. And the preparation's there. It's done. You just have to trust it. But you can't rely on it. You can't say, well, I said it this way. I want it to go this way. No, because they might say something to you that strikes you different. And you got to be willing to go down that route. In season 5, I feel like as a cast, we all hit this point because everybody prepares differently. Everybody has different. And so we would show up. And in this season, this was the one we felt confidence because we were successful now. We felt like we had adequate time to prepare. We had adequate time with the scripts and the crew has been working together. So we came on and I feel like, and I wonder if this with writing, there is that delicate balance where you hit a point where all your preparation, all your work is there, and but you're still excited about it. You're still nervous about it. You still got little butterflies. So that's like your best. That's your best thing, because you're not too nervous where it's overshadowing your work, and then you're not too locked into your work, so you're confident enough where you can let go and play and try different things. But there is a point when if you start to get bored in it, where you don't feel any butterflies and you don't feel like it's interesting or whatever, that's when it's time to hit the road, Jack, because it's not going to be interesting. If you're not interested, it's not going to be interesting. I had an acting teacher say one time when in theater doing certain scenes in class, and he would say, "You guys are so focused on yourself and you're in your head and out there and everything." He says, if you're not interested, meaning if you're not interested in what you want in the scene and in the circumstances and in the person that you're working with, then you're not going to be interesting. If you wake up, we would do scenes where you're just looking for your car keys. Like you would wake up and look for your car keys. And if you are dead set on finding your car keys and you're genuinely looking and you lift this thing up and you think it's going to be there, but it's not there, and then you go somewhere else, that's interesting to watch. It's more interesting if somebody's genuinely looking for their car keys than somebody's doing some bullshit scene where they're just worried about how they look or how their words are sounding or something like that.
Yeah, we've talked about that authenticity is the trickiest thing to get out of an actor. That they authentically feel like they are a person in that moment, having those feelings and engaging with the other characters in the way that's happening on screen. That it is all authentic. And that is, I think that's what you're talking about. It is being engaged in the moment. It's paying attention to the other performers in the scene, paying attention to what they're doing, reacting to what they're doing spontaneously, not like when he says this, I'm going to turn my head to the side and close my eyes a little bit, like not having a pre-planned moment in your head, but just reacting the way that character would react in the moment. That authenticity is impossible to fake. It is so obvious when the actor doesn't have it. When you're watching a scene and you're like, everything about this scene is fine. The person's got all the lines right. They're hitting all their marks, and everything about them feels inauthentic. You just can't fake it.
And the audience will always know. They might not know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
But if you watch something and it just swipes you up and you're emotionally involved and you're rooting and you go through the ride and you're moved and you get scared and you get all those, that means that there is truth and authenticity in the writing and in the acting and the performing, and you believe it. It's the belief. And sometimes you'll watch something and you're like, I was mildly entertained. It hit all the things, whatever, but it just didn't engage me. So the difference is between those two things is somebody is truly making you believe, truly doing that magic trick where you're watching this thing and you know it's fiction, you know it's not real, but it truly brings you in because you believe, because they believe.
Do you know how I know that now? What I've realized? If I'm watching something like a movie or a TV show or something, and while the scene is happening, I'm sitting there going, wow, this is a really well-written scene. That tells me the acting is not working. Because if the acting is working, I don't notice. I'm just in the moment with them. I'm in the moment with the characters. I'm not thinking about the thing. And then later, when I think back on it, I go, wow, that show is really well written. I really like that one scene, but it doesn't happen until later. Yeah. If I'm thinking that while I'm watching the scene, I'm not in the scene. Like, I'm emotionally disengaged. I'm just hearing the words as like, the script pages at that point. And I'm going, oh, that's a really well-written moment. I really liked that turn of phrase. That means the acting has not worked for me, has not pulled me in.
One of the things that I try to do is I'll try to go back and study the great movies or great, works that I really love, and then just try to see how they crafted it, how they introduced the movie, introduced the characters, all these things. And the hardest thing is I get swept up in it every single time. Yep. And then the movie's over and I'm like, oh shit, I was supposed to be paying attention. And that's how you know it's great. It's better.
That's how you know it's good.
It's sometimes easier to study bad movies because you can see.
It is easier.
Yeah. Because you can see the gears turning. You can see the clockwork. Yep. And you're like, oh, okay, they're trying to do this there. They want to do this there. But if you turn on a classic and you get swept up in it, it's hard to see what's going on or how they're doing it. It's really hard.
This is This is why I love terrible horror movies. This is why, like, when I got some time to kill and nothing else I need to do, I'll just turn on in the background some horror movie I've never seen before that's like 2.5 stars on the rating. Like the sweet spot is 4 stars on IMDb. That's the sweet spot, right? Because you watch it and it'll be mildly entertaining because like a monster shows up or people get stabbed or whatever. That's mildly entertaining. But mostly what I'm watching is, oh, that was such a badly directed scene, or oh, that writing is so bad. And by noticing how badly things are done, I'm going, if I was directing that scene, I'd do this with the camera. If I was writing that scene, here's the line I would have given that character. I'm learning so much more from the terrible stuff than the good stuff for exactly the reason you just said. If I'm watching something good, I don't notice any of the gears. Yeah. All I feel is the emotion of the moment that they're trying to get me to feel.
Do you enjoy all horror, even bad horror? Like, is there ever a horror movie where you're like, I wish I wouldn't have sat down to watch that?
Yeah, for sure. I enjoy most movies and TV shows when I feel like somebody was genuinely trying to do something, and maybe they didn't have the technical skills, or maybe they didn't have the money, or whatever. They were trying something and it wasn't working, but at least they're trying. Like it. Here we go. Authenticity. It feels genuine. It feels like a genuine attempt to make a thing that failed. Mm-hmm. What I hate is the minute that I can see the calculation in it. Like the minute that I can see the people who made the movie going, everyone is too stupid to know why this is bad. So when I feel like the movie's telling me I'm too stupid to understand why the movie is bad, then I can't do it. Then I'm pissed off. Then I'm like, if you tried to make something and you failed, that's admirable, right? You tried.
Yeah.
And you just didn't have what it takes to make it, but maybe you will in the future. Maybe you've learned something and you'll get better. When it's calculated and cynical, and like where it's like we're cynically making something because 2 years ago this thing was a big hit and we think people are too stupid to notice that ours is a terrible ripoff of that. So we're making, a cynical attempt to grab a few dollars off of somebody else's plate. I can't stand that. I hate that.
So going into this episode, the amount of backstory, back work that we've done as actors every season to prepare us so we know where we're coming from and where we're going, it really pays off in season 5 because we actually go back and visit our imaginations of these backstories that we read in the books and these things that we've envisioned in our minds. I remember being in Toronto, doubling for the Baltimore, like the entrance shot, and it just seemed like so bizarre that I was meeting little Timmy, that I was meeting Lydia, that I was these people that I was dreaming about and thinking about. It was almost like you had a lot of money and a lot of really smart professional people working together to create your backstory as an acting exercise, right? Like I wish that everything that I do going forward, that I could literally have say, okay, I got to do a prep movie where you do a movie of your backstory do like a full movie. So then you'd be so prepared when you go up and do your thing. But it was really a special thing that all the tools and the things that shaped and molded and formed Amos, we go back and visit. And it was so subtly done with the arcs of the first 4 seasons where you put in layers and layers of his past and refer to certain things, and you go back. And it's with all the characters. Alex goes back and visits his family. Naomi sees that her son is alive, and Fred tells her where her son is. Holden is just alone, just abandoned. And but it's the first time we see the Rossi crew split up, but they're going to visit their past. And the audience has been with them and watching them. They're going to see where they came from. And as a fan of other things, though, I love those moments. I'm always fascinated in those.
And let's do some quick credit here. So season 5, episode 1 was written by Narain Shankar, our showrunner, and directed by Breck Eisner, friend of the show. So give them a little credit. The problem whenever you dramatize backstory, it's never as good as the imagination made it, right? So Like if we had done like a little short movie of Timmy from Timmy's perspective, instead of the version we did where it's Amos going back and seeing the ghost of himself, I don't think it's as effective.
No.
I think it doesn't work as well. And every time I watch a show now or a movie where they dramatize the backstory, where it's like, where it does like a little flashback to the backstory, it always kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we've done it a couple of times on our show. We do a quick little flashback with Clarissa Mao to put her and Julie on the same screen with their father. Right. And primarily that was to see Clarissa and Julie together on the same screen.
It feels like one of those shitty crime shows when they're like, and then he went to the laundromat. Yeah. Then you see a bad guy with a gun, man, and he sneaks into the laundromat.
In the laundromat,
Or
exactly.
Or like a country music video, like a pop country music video. Like, and forgive me if I'm, I don't have anything against country music. I like country music. I'm saying, but the videos are just, they don't understand metal. It's all on the nose. Like if they say that that somebody's getting a divorce or somebody's in a fight in the song, it shows them like they're like fucking pointing at each other and throwing shit in the thing, and it's like there's no. It's all they're doing is taking the lyrics and literally putting it on screen. There's no metaphor. There's no but yeah, that's kind of what it is.
So, but you did mention another thing I wanted to talk about. So one of the things that you mentioned is that 3 of our main characters are going to revisit their pasts, and Holden is not. Holden is just hanging out on Tycho Station trying to figure this other thing out. And one of the things we were doing with book 5, and that we're also doing with season 5, is season 5 is about the ghosts of your past. It's about regret, right? The word underneath, the subtext underneath everything is regret. The things from your past that you wish hadn't happened. The thing about Holden is he doesn't have any regrets. Holden just moves through life doing whatever thing he thinks he should be doing at the moment and doesn't look back on his past with regret. He's just always sort of in forward motion, which is great because then we can put all the forward motion plot stuff on him because that's just the way he works. And we can have our other characters who do carry these deep regrets go backwards in time and visit the regrets from their past. We didn't intend that at the beginning, but when we were writing the first couple of books, it became very clear to us that Holden is a guy who doesn't look backwards. He doesn't look backward and feel bad about things that came before. He's a guy who always does the thing he thinks he should be doing in the moment. And whether it works out or not, he feels like that's what he should have tried to do. And he moves to the next thing. Right. Which made him the perfect character for this kind of like dividing the story this way.
Let's talk a little bit about Drummer, and she discovers Ashford's ship and she's grieving. Now, how did you construct this family that she has on this ship, this polyamorous?
Yes. So in the books, there is another character that got absorbed by Drummer. So in season 3, which is based on the 3rd book, we have a character in the 3rd book. We have a character named Michio Pa, who is Ashford's second in command, and she's a belter. She becomes kind of a foil for Bull, who doesn't show up until season 5, but he's in the 3rd book. She becomes kind of a foil for him, and she becomes a bit of the belter perspective, and then she shows up later in season 5 as one of the main belter leaders. And because we wanted to keep Kara, we were like, well, we'll just sort of fold the Michio Pa character into the Drummer character. They were kind of occupying the same space on the screen, so it was an easy thing to do. In the books, in book 5, when we find Michio Pa, she is operating as a pirate in the belt, and she has a polyamorous family unit on her ship. So we were like, the only thing we've ever seen with Drummer that tells us anything about her romantic life in the past is, we've joked about this before, and I'm not saying anything bad about Kara because I've said this to her face and she laughs. Drummer has sexual chemistry with literally everyone on screen. Like, something about her, she just has sexual chemistry with everybody. So when she's on screen with Dawes, they've got chemistry. When she's on screen with Naomi, they've got chemistry. Like, when she's on screen with Ashford, they've got chemistry. You know, Ashford's like 3 times her age, and still somehow there's this weird sexual chemistry, right? And so we were like, that seems to fit with what we did with Michio Pa in book 5, that she has this polyamorous family. This idea that Drummer is polyamorous and pansexual and all of that just seemed to fit with what we have seen with Drummer in the past based on Kara's performance. So it was a really easy thing to just slip her into that role. And we find her, she's acting as a pirate. You know, she quit at the end of season 4. She quit working for Fred and the OPA. And so when we find her in season 5, she's got her own ship. She's got this family that she's sort of been pulled into, this polyamorous family. It was just a really easy transition to make. And give credit to Kara.
Think about all the actors who've lost jobs because Kara was so good. Because all these characters, it's almost like it's a Wonderful Life version. Like if Kara like decided not to do Drummer, like how many other people would have a chance to be in the limelight for The Expanse. All these other characters that were just absorbed by her and kind of came through.
Yep. Well, I mean, we've talked about that before. Yeah. If you are a young actor, if you're a wannabe actor trying to break into the business, do the most, give the best possible performance that you can give, no matter how small the part seems to be. Because we hired Kara to play Drummer in season 2. That part was not very big. That was a pretty small part we hired her for. And by the end of season 6, she's one of the most important characters in the show. She's like top billing with you and Dom and Steven, and you know, like she's up there, and Shorey, she's up there with like our top billed people. That's because we gave her a tiny little part to start with. She crushed the shit out of it, and every time we were thinking about adding another character, somebody in the writer's room would go, or why can't Drummer just be that person?
Right.
Yeah. And just wound up absorbing everybody.
Another interesting moment is when Naomi rejects Holden's help, when she's got to go do what she's got to do. Is this about her kind of needing to go confront her past on her own and not wanting him to be a part of that? And also because it's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, it's both of those things that you just said. Both of those things are true. I mean, yes, Holden is her new boyfriend and they have a life together, but there are parts of her past that he has no part of. And when she's approaching dealing with those things, she doesn't want him there. She doesn't want him trying to fix it. Because here's the thing she knows about Holden is a fixer. Holden wants to make everything right. So if he gets involved in that, he's going to run around trying to fix it for her. She doesn't want that from him. She doesn't need that from him. And as you said, it's dangerous because she knows these people. Like she knows Marco's crew. You know, the first time later in the season when she runs into to Sin and Corral, the first thing Sin does is give her a big hug. She's to a degree, she's family with those people. They still love her. If James Holden, the most famous Earther, flying around out in the belt, is there, I don't think Sin gives her that hug. I think it changes the nature of that. And
that's something that she can't, take him with.
Exactly. Whereas they wind up taking her with them. They would have just killed Holden. They'd have just killed him, and she knows that. Yeah, these are dangerous people, and she knows how dangerous they are.
One of the things I want to miss most about The Expanse is these brief moments that I get with Avasarala, with Amos and Avasarala scene. I just think that it's such an interesting dynamic. There's such a fun flirtiness, and Amos brings something out of Avasarala you don't normally see. You know, there's a playful side. There's something there, and it's to me, it's just a delight to make those scenes and shoot those scenes and work with Sheree.
Well, you've mentioned multiple times that you've read The Churn. Amos has a thing for the older ladies,
and it's consistent, and it's consistent with
it's consistent.
Yeah, with his character. And when did the first I Didn't Always Work in Space, was that the first? Like, when was that was the first, like, because I remember Sheree and I were talking about, I think we got a spark for each other, I think we got this thing, and it just became really interesting.
I think it is very clear from your scenes together that if she could stop being the queen of space for an hour, and what happens in space stays in space, the two of you would just wreck each other.
Yeah.
I think that's very clear.
And you know what? Maybe they did wreck each other in off screen. maybe like when I left.
You know what?
I did stay in Luna for
I am
one
fine
night.
with that fan fiction.
I did stay.
I am fine with that fan fiction.
I can see Avasarala been like, send him down to my room.
You guys were living on the spaceship together for a while.
Oh yeah.
Who knows what happened?
Yeah.
Who knows
I
what
forgot
happened
about
when
that.
nobody was around?
So when I come to see her and I call her Chrissy, I mean, obviously I feel confident enough to call her a little pet name.
You're saying a little bit of that might be some pillow talk?
A little bit of that might be reference to something else in the past. And then she shut it down because she's like, that's our private time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's gone back to being the queen of space, and the queen of space can't have that kind of shenanigans.
So Holden learns that the goddamn proto-molecule is still out there. And old Freddie Johnson's in charge of it. I think at this point, like with Holden, it's like, have you not learned your fucking lesson, Fred Johnson? Like, we got to stop this shit. This is mayhem.
Well, but part of what Holden is in our books and our show is Holden is Cassandra. You know the mythology of Cassandra, right? The Greek mythology. Oh yeah. So Cassandra was an oracle who was cursed by the gods that her prophecies would always be right and no one would ever listen to them. So Holden's the one who's always going around, good guys, this terrible thing is going to happen. We should probably do something. And everybody's like, oh, Holden, you so crazy.
Yeah. He was like, Fred Johnson, I saw this blue thing turn on this alien artifact. And every time I cross through the ring, whatever killed this thing is getting angrier and angrier. And I think he's going to eat the universe. And Fred Johnson's like, come on, calm the fuck down. Chill out, dude. It's not going to happen.
Fred's answer to that is basically like, dude, you've got a ship. You've got a hot girlfriend. Why don't you just chill out?
Yeah. Speaking of Narain Shankar, I think one of the great things he contributed, is this fight scene in the bathroom, Amos's fight scene, because we shot the scene linear.
Yeah.
And we imagined it linear, where there's going to be this, and we shot, I mean, it took us all day. We shot this like vicious, epic fight scene where, fighting up and down the bathroom and throwing people over and tossing and breaking heads and everything. And what Narain realized is that the scene was really about the moment in the shower, the self-reflection. And also somebody close to Amos has died, and that was a vent of this anger and this fear. And so,
well, the moment in the shower is the release of the tension. Mm-hmm. It is Amos finally feeling like himself for a moment because of the violence that he just committed.
And so Narain edited it in a way where you get through you see like flashes of the fight, but it's really about Amos in the shower with that release. And then that reflection.
And Narain was 100% right. I mean, I worked with Maddie on that fight. Like, because Narain, whenever we put a fight in any of the episodes, Narain would always go, Ty, go do the fight thing. Because he doesn't care about that. Like, that's not the thing he cares about. And I actually care about the fights in our show. So I would go work with the stunt crew. And so, Matt and I had a bunch of conversations about what this fight should be like and the brutality of it and all of that. And Matt and you and the other stunt people came up with a great fight. I really liked what you guys all came up with. And I know you were part of that conversation too. And what you guys came up with together, I think, was really good. But it wasn't right. And this is, you always talk about this, like for a performer, what's the right emotional moment? It doesn't matter what the moment that best flatters you as an actor. What's the moment that best flatters that character, or best brings out the emotion that character feels, and get yourself out of the equation. This is one of those moments, because we all worked really hard to make this cool fight, and Narain goes and watches it and he goes, this isn't the moment though. The moment is Amos finally feeling a brief moment of peace and release because he's committed all of this violence, and he's able, and that's what gets the tension out of him that's been building up because of the loss of this person who was important to him. And holy shit, was Narain right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it made it so possible.
He was right.
One thing that I fall for that I'm really glad stayed in was the jamming the toothbrush in the guy's neck. I just think it was so vicious and so creative. He's like, and just jams it in his neck. Oh, I love that moment.
The what Narain cut the scene down to, and we had a conversation as he was doing it, and I think he's totally right, is he's like, let's cut it to only the moments of most extreme violence. So we never see the moments between the violence. We see Amos stab somebody with a toothbrush. We see Amos kick somebody in the face. We see Amos slamming somebody's head on a table over and over again. We don't see any of the moments in between. We just see those extreme violence moments. And I love it. And the toothbrush in the neck, perfect extreme violent moment.
Yeah, it's great. Speaking of bathroom fights, our lovely Patreon members, the topic they chose for today, which I think is a great topic, is bathroom fights. And before this started, as soon as I read the topic, I knew what Ty's favorite bathroom fight was, and it was mine.
Oh
too.
yeah, no, it's obvious.
You get to see Aragon's pee-pee in the bath. You know that one's going to win.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see little Aragon flopping around,
Aragon, yeah.
That's a good scene.
Aragon. So, little Aragon's going to be number one on our list. We'll say that.
Or Aragorn. We're saying Aragon, but we mean Aragorn.
Aragorn. Is that what I said in the beginning?
Yeah, I was saying it too.
So Eastern Promises in the Bathhouse, that's number one. Okay, I'll read the pool now. Bad Boys, when Marcus gets beat up, then wins against two guys. Blood and Bone. Bone easily evades the bathroom beatdown in prison. Casino Royale. Bond, James Bond in the bathroom. Colombiana, Zoe Saldana, Deadpool 2 in the Japanese bathhouse, Ender's Game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Ender's Game, Ender and Bonzo. Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close versus Michael Douglas and Ann Archer. Man, that was a fucking, what a thriller that was, huh, that movie? GoldenEye, Bond versus somebody. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. Liar, Liar, Jim Carrey, Fletcher, Reed, kicking his own. I'm kicking my own ass. Mission Impossible, Fallout, Henry Cavill versus Tom Cruise, Naked Gun 2.5, Ninja Assassin, Rush Hour 2, Jackie Chan in the bathhouse, Terminator 3, T-8-100 versus the T-1000. Wait, was there Ty? What? There's
no. That's Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. The Cable Guy, Jim Carrey versus Owen Wilson on a date. Oh, God, I love that. That one. You remember that one? When he says, now you like Nikki Gillespie, when he puts his mouth on the dryer and it blows his cheeks out. God, Jim Carrey kills me. The Highwaymen, Galt versus Rednecks, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Solo versus The Matrix, Morphia versus Mr. Smith, The Punisher, Frank Castle versus The Russian, The Raid 2, The Warriors, when they fight the gang in the subway bathroom, The World's End, when they fight those alien robot things in the bathroom, True Lies, Arnold, here, cool off. True Romance, oh, that's in there. When Alabama kills James Gandolfini, remember that one?
That's not in a bathroom. That's in a hotel room.
Yeah,
that's
it ends up in the bathroom. It ends up.
Oh, it does. You're right. It does end up in the bathroom. That's right.
She has to take the lid off the bathroom toilet, and that's right. I'm going to vote for that for number 2 because
that's pretty good. Can we include Kill Bill 2, where the bride and what's her name from Splash?
Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah, thank you. The bride and Daryl Hannah wind up fighting in the bathroom after she throws the tobacco juice in Daryl Hannah's face and then shoves her face in the toilet.
Yeah. Unleashed, Jet Li versus Girl. Witness, the police informant gets killed by Danny Glover. Now, it's interesting about this list because...
Oh, well, hold on. I got one we got to add.
Okay.
Red Heat, where Arnold Schwarzenegger goes to that bathhouse and beats up the big Russian dudes.
Yeah. That's an awesome one. And then they end up in the snow.
They end up in the snow, yeah. A bunch of huge Russian dudes beating on each other in the snow.
Now, was that a bathroom, though?
Yeah, it was like a bathhouse.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was like a Russian steam room bathhouse kind of place.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you have any more?
Kill Bill 2 and Red Heat were the two I was thinking of.
So
but, yeah.
the thing about True Romance and even in Witness, right, is that the design of Witness, when the little kid's in the bathroom and Danny Glover slits the guy's throat, he sees something, a horrific murder, right? And the guy's killed. Then he goes and washes his hands and he's like, "What the fuck you doing, man?" He's like, I'm washing up. Like, what's the problem, right? So now you know he's a sociopath. Now you know and then he hears the kid squeak. And then Danny Glover pulls his gun out, right? So he's going to murder whoever he comes in there. And then he goes through and starts kicking each. And we've seen it a million times now, but this is the first time I've seen it. Kicking each stall. And then the kid's like trying to get the lock. So the tension and the way it was designed, because now it's the lock, right? And it's all ramping up. First he's in the bathroom. He sees this murder. The murder was unsuspected. You're like, holy shit. And then it just ramps up to where he's getting the lock. So finally he gets the lock closed. He gets it in there. And then when Danny Glover gets to the stall, he kicks it and it doesn't open. Or he tries to open it, it doesn't open. And so the kid then climbs under the stall, but he almost misses his hat. And he grabs his hat and pulls it as the stall gets kicked open. That is the inciting incident that the whole movie revolves around. And it was done so well that you know who Danny Glover is. You know how dangerous he is. And you know the kind of danger and the kind of threat and the up against this kid's innocence, that sweet face. He's an Amish guy. So I think in terms of like these scenes and how important they were to the movie, and I think Witness is up there. I will say also with True Romance, I mean, the viciousness of that scene and how you completely underestimated Alabama. You know, when you see that, you're like, oh my God, like this poor woman. But she's tougher and resourceful than we ever thought. And that scene needs to show you that, you know, and her loyalty.
And that's what I love about that scene.
But the loyalty that she has, where she's basically standing in for him, like she's
Clarence.
Like she's Clarence. And so James Gandolfini is like, he thinks, and we think, oh, he's going to beat her up and torture for a little bit. But little do we know, he's picking on the wrong motherfucker. And she comes through and she's resourceful and she's gritty and she's fucking mean. And he throws her through the shower door. And you're like, is she fucking done? Is she out? And she's still fighting. He's like, kid, you got heart. And he respects her. How that scene evolves is that he ends up falling in love with her by the fierceness and the fight and the spirit she has. And he looks at her and he's like, God damn, kid, you got heart. And there's something touching and emotional about it. And then she stabs him in the fucking foot with the cork, the wine cork. And then she takes
the wine cork thing. You're right.
Then she takes the back of the bathroom and she fucking kills him. And I'm just like, oh, you did not that is something from a writer's perspective, like, you know, with what Tarantino did is he took a scene where you thought you've seen it before and people have seen that, and he done it in a way that I've never seen before. It was such a fresh air into that moment.
And give credit to the director as well, because one of the things that drives me nuts is when, you know, you always talk about fight consistency, right? That's like your thing. James Gandolfini is a mountain of a man, right? He's tall, he's broad shouldered, he's a beast. If she was winning that fight by like throwing punches and that kind of stuff, nobody's going to buy that. It seems ridiculous. There's no way somebody her size, man or woman, beats somebody his size, man or woman. It doesn't matter. That the weight difference is just too big. But that's not how it goes down. It's what you said. She's gritty, she's resourceful. The thing that she's able to do is just take the punishment and find a way to keep fighting back in spite of the power difference between the two of them, the physical power difference. And that's what makes it such a great scene. You're pulling for her the whole way because she can't win a fist fight with this guy. It's impossible. But she's finding a way. She's like digging down and finding all these like clever ways to survive this fight. And it's one of the great scenes. And I never felt like it was bullshit. I never was like, come on. Like I mean, if Patricia Arquette throws the most powerful punch she's ever thrown in her life, it's going to bounce off James Gandolfini, and everybody knows that, right? So that's not how she wins the fight, which I like.
And I like him gaining admiration for her as the fight continues. And it's almost like it becomes heartbreaking, because of the grit and spirit she has. And he almost doesn't, he gives that speech, in the beginning, like about him when he first killed somebody. And then at the end, he says, he goes, I don't feel that rush or that thrill. Now I just kill people to watch their face change. So you see somebody that's like dead inside, right? And looking for this thing. And she awakens something in him. So in some way, it's oddly, strangely, tragically beautiful, the scene.
Yeah.
So we got Aragorn's pee-pee, Witness, True Romance. So we need 4 and 5.
I mean, most of the ones you mentioned are great. Like there's, you and I are both Schwarzenegger fans, and there is something to be said for watching peak, bulky Schwarzenegger when he was the biggest he's ever been on film, walking around in a loincloth and beating on like 3 other Russian dudes who are equally his size or bigger. There's something to be said for that scene. I mean, it is magically homoerotic. Like, it is magical,
right? And there's no that, if I remember correctly, that scene was not instrumental to the plot or anything like these other movies. You could have.
It has nothing to do with the plot.
And the movie would exist or didn't exist.
Yep.
But to put Red Heat at number 5 would just be our salute to the 80s and the homoerotic macho-ness of the 80s. Okay, so we have an empty spot at number 4, and I would probably vote Fatal Attraction because that closing image when he shoots her and she's sliding down the bathtub is so violent and so graphic that you don't forget it. And that movie was such a well-designed thriller. Okay, so our list is Aragorn's pee-pee, Witness, True Romance, Fatal Attraction, Red Heat. This is their list. True Lies, Here to Cool Off. They were close because we do have Arnold on here and we do love Arnold. The Warriors, that could have went that way too. And we didn't talk much about the Warriors. The Matrix, Eastern Promises, boom, boom, boom. They got one. And then Casino Royale, James Bond. That was fun.
I mean, those are all good movies and good fight scenes. I don't think anything on that list is wrong or bad.
What I think that the Patreons are what is fun to watch is like how savvy they are, that they know what our like strike zones are. And they know that Arnold was going to be on there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think they knew that Eastern Promises would have been your favorite as much, but yeah, I think they went more with the action, the actual fight sequences. Kind of like with Witness, it's it's very different from, say, like the Eastern Promises.
But it's a powerful scene. I mean,
I was disappointed, though, that you omitted one of my favorite bathroom scenes. Now, I don't think you've seen the movie, but maybe Ty has seen it. But have you ever heard of the movie called Ricky O, otherwise known as The Story of Ricky?
No.
I'll have to share it with you guys. It's a comedy. It's a Hong Kong film. It was it has some famous scenes that have been used in pop culture. And there is a ridiculous bathroom fight scene that when you guys see it, you'll laugh.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. Now it concludes season 5, episode 1. Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.